Hello, what is up everybody? My name is Andrew, you can call me Cookies, and today we'll be going over how to get started in Mythic Plus content as a Holy Paladin. Paladins are neck and neck with the Restoration Druid for the #1 healer spotlight in Mythic Plus. They provide the strongest reactive single target healing in the game, which is perfect for Mythic Plus where players drop low on health consistently. This, combined with the vast options for damage reduction and damage immunities Paladins offer, make for a class that excels so well at Mythic Plus content. To start off, we will be going over a standard talent build to use for Mythic Plus, as well as our core abilities, talking a bit about where and when we should be using them. If you are interested in learning more talent options, or want to know what legendaries and gear setups are best for every situation, please stay tuned for part 2 of this series, which will be out soon. Alright, so let's talk about the talents we will be using in our standard Mythic Plus setup, starting off with Crusader's Might. This will allow us to deal damage and provide ourselves with shorter cooldowns for our instant cast heals. Holy Paladins lack the power of AoE healing, so for our next talent choice we will be taking Rule of Law, which when used increases the range of our spells for 10 seconds. This is best used when you want to hit everyone in the party with Light of Dawn to output some AoE healing. Next up, we will be taking Fist of Justice, as it is a passive so we don't have to worry about pressing yet another button, and it allows us to have our 5-second single target stun more often, which we can just use on cooldown to help alleviate some of the pressure to the group. Providing damage reduction is one of our major strengths as a Holy Paladin, so for the standard build, Devotion Aura will provide a passive damage reduction to nearby allies, as well as an active effect that will reduce damage taken for all allies within 40 yards by 20%. Which offers us an easy way to deal with so many things when it comes to one-shot mechanics or burst damage in Mythic Plus. As we approach the last few rows of our talents, Holy Avenger will be taking up a spot on our bars as a nice semi-short healing cooldown we can use to increase the output of our healing on the group by a large amount. This is great to use for trash packs as its cooldown is only a minute and a half, allowing for constant use throughout the dungeon run. Sanctified Wrath will be up next, as it will empower our Avenging Wrath to be much more durable for boss encounters or crazy trash pulls where we need more output than Holy Avenger can offer us. Lastly, for the standard talent build, Beacon of Virtue will be chosen to help strengthen our weakness of AoE healing output. This is a 15-second cooldown ability that applies a beacon to a total of 4 party members near your initial target, who will all receive 40% of any healing you do to another target for a short window of time. This ability helps us keep the group up during moments where AoE damage occurs, or we need to make sure everyone is topped off at full health before big damage occurs. So now that we have gone over the talent build, we need to take a look at our core abilities and spells and how they should be used within Mythic Plus. We will be dividing these spells into 3 sections: Sustain, Cooldowns, and Damage. Starting with our Sustain, these are spells that we will be using in moments where the party needs to be healed to keep the party up and alive, resorting to using cooldowns to empower the baseline of these abilities. Spells within this category include Beacon of Virtue, Flash of Light, Holy Light, Light of Dawn, Holy Shock, Light of the Martyr, and Divine Protection. We talked about Beacon of Virtue when going over our talent build, but to go over it again, it is a 15-second cooldown spell that applies a beacon to a total of 4 party members who will receive 40% of all healing done for 8 seconds. This is extremely useful to use if the party is not full health or you know that big AoE damage is incoming. Flash of Light is our go-to spam heal. In most cases, as we become more comfortable with healing, this is best used when we know damage is about to happen on a player or spamming it on a player taking constant damage. As a Paladin, we want to learn to weave in damage abilities and play aggressively, so Flash of Light should eventually become something that is only used when we know it will do healing, rather than using it as a downtime healing spell. Holy Light will only be used when we don't need big healing numbers and simply want to preserve mana or give someone a quick, small spot heal. This spell should only be casted alongside an infusion of light proc to make this spell have a shorter cast time, which occurs every time our Holy Shot crits. Light of Dawn should generally be used on cooldown. Comboing a Rule of Law right before the cast will increase its effective range, making it much easier to hit every player in the group. When an ally is healed by this spell, they receive 10% increased healing from us for a short window, helping us to top people off much easier. Holy Shock is a powerful instant cast single target heal. This spell is the reason Holy Paladins are able to spot heal so efficiently. Generally, you should be looking to use this spell on cooldown. Next up, we have Light of the Martyr, which is very similar to Holy Shock in that it is an instant cast and heals for a lot. This spell cannot crit and deals damage to us whenever it is used. This should be used as an instant cast heal in the case that Holy Shock is on cooldown and we don't have time to cast Flash of Light. This spell benefits from some legendary combos that we will go over in part 2 of this series as well. Divine Protection is a 1-minute personal cooldown that reduces all damage we take by 20% for 12 seconds. This is extremely useful to negate tons of mechanics in trash pulls as well as boss fights. This should generally be used every single time it's up when we are in combat. As you become more aware of different mobs and boss mechanics, you will learn when it is best used, but for getting started, we want to just be using this cooldown in combat to ensure we are getting the most out of it while not knowing every type of mechanic. Now that we have talked about our sustain spells, we get to talk about the most important aspect of Holy Paladin healing, which is burst spells and cooldown management. As a Holy Paladin, we have access to lots of cooldowns that empower our healing output and damage reduction we provide to the party. When it comes to Mythic Plus, we have no need to hold these cooldowns back like in raiding, so we can play aggressive and pop multiple cooldowns to ensure the party stays alive and we deal plenty of damage. The main learning curve is understanding what cooldowns you can expend each pull and learning which ones are best to put together. We will go over all of that in depth in part 2 of this series, but for now let's just talk about each of these cooldowns and when we should generally be using them. First off, learning what cooldowns to use where is just a matter of practice. On Mythic Plus weeks that have the Fortified affix, we should be looking to use 2 major cooldowns each pack of trash that we fight if the tank is pulling large amounts and moving quickly. With the Tyrannical affix, we should be looking to only be using 1 cooldown plus Beacon of Virtue every trash pull, to ensure we have a few cooldowns available by the time we reach each boss in the dungeon. Don't be hesitant to use cooldowns. Use them aggressively to learn what cooldowns are good in what situations and which ones you like comboing together. If the party doesn't require too much healing, for whatever reason, then focus on your cooldown usage to be more offensive so you can help the group deal damage. Crusader Strike, Judgment, Consecration, and Holy Shock can all be used as offensive spells to deal damage, as long as we are ensuring that the party is staying at full health and not in risk of dying. Moving into our cooldown spells, we have Aura Mastery, Avenging Wrath, Blessing of Sacrifice, Holy Avenger, and our artifact weapon ability, Tyr's Deliverance. Aura Mastery provides all party members within 40 yards of us 20% damage reduction for 8 seconds. This alone can negate so many mechanics and should be used in 2 situations. The first being a party member is about to get one-shot, and the other being the party taking constant or high burst damage that cannot be countered by Beacon of Virtue healing. Avenging Wrath increases all healing we output by 35%, and due to our talent choices, it will reduce Holy Shock's cooldown by half, which allows us to constantly keep players topped off. This is also one of our offensive cooldowns, so don't be afraid to use it during trash packs to output some damage. Next up, we have Blessing of Sacrifice, which transfers 30% of damage done to the target back to us for 18 seconds. This cooldown helps us alleviate pressure if the tank has no defensive cooldowns, or if a party member is being targeted by a deadly single target mechanic. Lastly, for our major cooldowns we will be using, we have Tyr's Deliverance, our artifact ability, which after a short cast time heals nearby injured allies every second for 10 seconds, leaving a buff on healed players that increase the healing they receive from our Holy Light and Flash of Light by 45% for 10 seconds. This is an excellent cooldown to use to help us pick up the slack on AoE healing output, as well as single target healing on fights where the tank is the only one taking damage from certain mechanics. So that covers the main portion of what we need to understand and learn to master the Holy Paladin in Mythic Plus. To finish up our Getting Started guide, I would like to talk a little bit about our offensive abilities, as well as some of general tips and reminders for you as you begin climbing Mythic Plus content. For our damage rotation, we have Judgment, Crusader Strike, Consecration, and Holy Shock. Judgment can be used from a distance and should be used on cooldown on whatever mob we are currently targeting when dealing damage. Crusader Strike should be used as much as possible as long as we are not putting the party in danger by not healing. Using Crusader Strike will reduce the cooldown of Holy Shock and Light of Dawn due to our first talent choice, so learning when to weave these damage abilities in will benefit our Mythic Plus runs in so many ways. Next, Consecration puts a damaging AoE under our feet that should be used on cooldown while we are in melee range of mobs. Lastly, Holy Shock is a healing spell but can deal damage when targeting an enemy. Use this for damage when you are confident that your party will not be taking significant damage within the cooldown that Holy Shock has. So that's the damage rotation, but before we are all finished, let's go over some quick tips and things to keep in mind as you go into Mythic Plus. Fortified weeks in Mythic Plus means using 2 or more cooldowns each trash pack. Play aggressive, and don't be afraid of burning cooldowns. Even if you burn too many or make a mistake, it is better that you practice and learn how to use your cooldowns rather than holding onto them until it is too late. Tyrannical weeks means playing more conservative and using only 1 cooldown per trash pack, attempting to focus more on your damage rotation since the mobs will be much less of a threat to your party. Remember to use your Blessing of Sacrifice on players taking lots of single target damage, and using your Beacon of Virtue whenever you need AoE healing, as it is a super short cooldown. I hope this video helped you understand the base of how the Holy Paladin should be played in Mythic Plus content, and I look forward to talking to you about gear setups, advanced strategies, and legendaries in part 2. Thank you all for taking the time to watch this video, and have a wonderful day.